Greetings to you all. I hear much laughter, so that makes me want to come. It's nice to be someplace where there's joy. Because it's getting harder and harder to hit in places now on the earth plane with that. First of all, I'm going to speak a little bit about what's happening on your planet as far as the energies and the way it's impacting your weather. And it's been, remember when I spoke before about the shifting of Mother Earth and how she has to protect herself. And as you can see, some people are trying very hard, some countries are trying very hard to protect. And then there are others like yours where government has turned against that, and so it's making it much more difficult. We're getting to the point where it won't be able to shift it, okay? That's what is unfolding now. There's only so much that can happen. And then, you know, you hit 0 point, and so then it resets. The damage that is being done to habitats with these storms, that's created by the damage that has been done to the earth plane. The fact that the oceans are warmer, then when the energies flow in, this is what happens. I know there's a scientific explanation, which I'm not a scientist, I'm a teacher, so I'm not going to go there because it really doesn't matter unless you're a scientist and want to know those things. But the net result is this weather will continue. These storms will continue in different parts of the world. You know, they talk about storms and maybe every 100 years this happens. And then all through history on the earth plane there have been times where there's been water at a place and then not there. And so then the population migrates to go somewhere else. And so all over the earth plane there are different parts of this earth where there were civilizations and then aren't anymore. Well, this is going to continue. And remember I talked about the shifting coming in a few years. Somebody tried to pin me down to a number and I said 5. And timing is very difficult. It's in that range. I might not be right on target, but it's going to continue, this energy. Now, what you see happening now is mainly a loss, not here in this country, not as much of a loss of life as a loss of buildings and people living in buildings. That's what's happening. But other parts of the world, there's been tremendous loss of life on some of these circumstances. So do your best is to send prayer to those impacted. And I know you pay attention, and so you will stay out of those areas where this is unfolding, because there is notice given, and it's best not to push it, to get away from them as soon as you possibly can. This winter, you're going to have some very cold weather, and then it's going to change again. You notice the summer was very strange, and the fall. Your fall was not a fall, and it's pretty much done. You're going to have some time where it's going to be cool like this, but winter will come early. You're going to have days, very cold weather. You're going to have more snow than you had last year, but that will be better than ice. So that's your hope. Our slope is when these energies flow in, instead of it going to ice, which it's done sometime here, which is definitely dangerous, it would be snow. So you're going to have more snow this year, you're going to have more cold temperature. But you're not going to have the kind of destruction that we're going to see in other places. So you should be just being annoyed when you drive and things like that, but not being in danger zones, because there are some areas now in the mountains where it's going to be very dangerous for people, and it's going to come on very suddenly, and you're going to have people being trapped in these mountain areas here in this country where the storm came from nowhere, it seemed. So, but you don't have mountains here, just little hills, so you should be fine. So, now that I've done the weather report, I wanted to talk about some other things I see unfolding, and I also wanted to talk about the way I can see things working for you. And I wanted to touch on past lives a little bit. I think I'm going to do that first, because I think there's confusion on the earth plane, especially for some who first hear about reincarnation, and then they hear that, I think in the Eastern India, some of those traditions teach that if you have a bad life, next life you could be a caterpillar, or you could be a bird. Well, that does not happen. When you are in human form, you came down to the earth plane in human form. Your reincarnation is your choice. When you come home, when you make this circle of life here, and you're done with these physical bodies, then when you come home, I'm going to talk a little bit how that works when you come over here. You're coming back to us, to your home base, to the place of unconditional love, and it feels wonderful. So when you make your transition home, then you're going to rest a little bit, because when you first come back here, it feels very different, and it can feel frightening, because you've been in these bodies for a while. This feels what's normal. Okay, so then you come home, you rest, and then you start looking around, and the minute you start to open your eyes, your friends are there, your spirit guides are there, and we're there to work with you, to talk with you, to spend time with you, because a lot of us have incarnated, and we've gone through what you're going through. So we're so delighted when you come home. So then we spend time together. Maybe we go out to lunch, but we don't eat. But we do that socialing thing. It's socializing. That's the English word for it, isn't it? Anyway, so we do that, and then when you're interested, you can go to the records and look at your past lives. Then you decide what you want to do. So you look, oh gee, I didn't do that well with that. Maybe the next time I come on the earth plane, I want to be a teacher. Yes, I want to teach. Because maybe in that lifetime, you didn't know spiritual truths. So you went on your intuition and you did pretty good, but maybe you would like to, when you're up here and start remembering your truth, maybe you decide when you come back that you want to teach these truths. But you can teach perhaps in a school system, okay, wherever you come back. okay? You may come back in India, or you may come back in Africa, or you may come back here. You choose where you would like to be based on what you want to accomplish and who you're going to be with and who your parents are. Because maybe you talk to some friends and they're like, I think this time I want to go here. I think I want to be a mother this time. I haven't been a mother in quite a while. Or maybe you decide that's what you want to do. So while we're up here, we're going through these different thought processes of what we would like to do if we come back. We might not want to come back. We might want to stay for a while. But let's say we're going to come back. So we have our parents set up, and we're going to go to this part of the world because we see there's a need there for what we want to accomplish. So that's our goal now. It never works the way we plan because there are all these factors that interfere. Maybe you went to this country because you thought this would be a good place to be a teacher. The government gets overthrown when you're there. Well, that's going to put a crimp in your style for sure. So different things happen, and so when you're on the earth plane, you're constantly rewriting your plan. Do you physically know? No, usually it's your higher self is like, uh-oh, let me see, I need to switch here, I need to change this. And then your higher self in meditation, when you're sleeping, is always trying to direct you. And if you can be open to it, then that really is good. There are times when you absolutely have a gut feeling that this is where you need to go, this is what you need to do. And that's very helpful. It's not always going to be that way. But one thing I would like to stress is you absolutely have free will and free choice. Always, always, always. When you're home, you make your decisions. Now, let's say you decide you want to have this person as your parent. Well, they don't want to do that. So then you have to make other choices. It's all about us working together in service. And when it doesn't happen that way, we can see the breakdown. We're seeing breakdowns now in societies. In your society, there's a lot of anger and confusion. And so it's people are getting thrown off their center by perhaps something this person is doing. Well then, here's the thing. If you get thrown off your center by that, then what do you need to do? What do we need to do when that happens? First of all, let's take a deep breath, and then we will sit very quietly and try to be peaceful. Because when these things happen and your center is thrown off by somebody else's actions, then what we have to do then is go inside and know our truth. Because we all connect with each other all the time. But to allow someone to really take you out of yourself constantly, that means you need to do some work. Because you are divine. You absolutely are, and so are they. So, but in order to have peace, you have to stay centered in your own truth and allow people to be who they are, to do who they are. The thing is, you all have the right to set boundaries. And you can allow so much of actions of other people. If that does not work for you, you step away from that person. I'm seeing happening now too on the earth plane is people are staying in toxic situations. Their thought processes have made them think that this is what they have to do. Untrue. You can always, always, always change your outward appearance of things. If this job is driving you crazy, there can be another place for you. There can be another circumstance that will work better. You need to remember who you are and to change your mind, to change your thought process. What happens, I see, is people blindly accept other people's ideas, especially if they're an expert on something. A doctor, somebody like that, or just anyone who comes across as, I have the answers. You each have the answers for yourself. There is no one who knows better than you what your divinity is, what your path is. When I talk to people individually, I give them guidance. But I don't say this is what you need to do, because that's not my right. My right is to say, well, here's what I see in the energies. Now you make the choice. I try not to influence anybody. Although maybe I have a couple times, but I try not to, because maybe, well, I can usually see in my space what's happening on the earth plane. Of course, I'm way up here, and I can see what's going on, but I don't interfere. I'm not allowed to. And when you come home and you're up here with me, you'll do the same thing. There are times when it's very difficult when you're in spirit form like this, and you see things happening, and you really want to go, oh, don't do that, but you can't, because everyone has free will and free choice. That is an important thing to remember. And as it is in reincarnation, you have the choice when you come home. You decide what you're going to do. You are the judgment of you. There is not anybody sitting on a mountain somewhere saying, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. Never. This is a place of love. This is a place of unconditional love. So let's say somebody comes home, and maybe on the earth plane he's a terrorist, hates everybody. Yep. So he comes home, he's in spirit form now, and you think, wow, we don't want him choosing anything. Well, here's the thing. The soul itself has been caught, of course, and has not been able to influence the personality self. So the soul might be really cringing and trying to direct the personality self, and it has not been able to. But when the soul comes home, that karma is theirs, and they know that. So they have to work with that. But it's a choice. You can stay here forever, but it takes a long time to work on your karma here. Because it's easy, you know. If you're in a space of unconditional love, it's more difficult. You come down to the earth plane, well, then you've got some challenges, don't you? So then you can start to work on your karma and able to move. And, you know, I do want to say this, too, because everybody thinks it's these big things that you do. It can be very simple. You can help change somebody's day by being kind in a very quick interaction to help them remember, to help them move out of being stuck. Because what happens on the earth plane is we get in circumstances and we think we're stuck there. And the truth is there's always another way. There's always a way for you to feel happy and fulfilled. There's always that option. You didn't come down here to be miserable. You know, you came to do work, yes, but to do work with great joy. When you are down here and enjoying things, everything flows easier. It's easier for you to be an asset, to be of service, to stay focused when you can do whatever it is you're doing with fun and joy. I think fun gets a bad rap lots of times in churches, but it shouldn't, because being joyful, being in that flow of energy of delight, helps you open up to your own higher self. It helps you listen and follow direction and to be in a place where you can be of service, where you can be an aspect of divine energy. I think I'll start taking questions now, and then if we need to jump back into me talking some more, which I enjoy, we will. But any questions about anything?
Well, you know, I always have a question.
I know, it's really good. I know you're listening to me because you always have questions.
Okay, in the beginning you talked about how we're always in human form, we weren't an animal or something else like that. But I do have a question regarding to that, because when we went to Serendipity, me, Carol, and Jerry, I had a horse reading with Michelle, and it was really awesome, but strangely enough, I can't seem to figure this thing out, because she said, or the horse told me, I don't know which one, that I used to be a unicorn, and I used to do that, or be that, before I decided to do human. I don't know, is that true?
Eons and eons ago.
So there were such
Yes,
things.
it's possible. Here's the way this works. Eons and eons ago, there was a time when there was a connection between the animal and the physical human, and that was wrong. There were those who were part of each, and it was wrong, and it was decreed that, you see, it's all a learning process, and we're learning too, because when we set up these physical things centuries and eons ago, no one knew how this would work, and different things that happened then were changed. Some people, yes, have started out in animal form. Eons, how long have the unicorns been gone? Centuries.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could do that, and then go, if you decided that you didn't want to stay in that form, that you wanted to go to human form, then you went through different levels of animals. The last level is what you call Bigfoot. That is the bridge. Now, it didn't always have to be that way. There were times, eons ago, where you could have been a very evolved animal, like a unicorn, and jump into a human form. That was more difficult, okay, because you had gone from one thing to another, and it was difficult to make that adjustment. But that was thousands of years ago. So, and then now, usually what happens, if you want to make that bridge, you go through the different animals and then come. The gorilla is probably the closest, then go into Bigfoot and live that lifetime, and then go into a human form. And usually that human form then would be nothing like you guys. It would be somebody with, like a caveman, that kind of intellect, and they would probably be living away from civilization, and that they would have that lifetime, and then they would grow. So yes, that's quite possible, but it was eons and eons and
Right,
eons
okay.
ago.
Okay, I was
But
wondering.
that could
because-
be why you like horses.
I do, I felt, and that's why I asked her, I said, why do I feel so connected to them? And that's when that came out.
Yeah.
And I guess it kind of makes sense.
But it's thousands.
Yeah. I know. Thank you.
Mhm.
John, when you say you see the energies moving, what do you actually see? What do you sense? What does it look like to you to see energies moving?
Describe it. Because you can't see the wind, right?
Right,
But you can feel it.
right.
Okay, it's that type of thing. But for me, since I am all spirit, I can have more of a seeingness of the different colors of the energies are up and down and the way they flow, and they're different colors that I can see. So I can tell, let's say I'm looking at a space on the earth, and I can see, you have dark clouds when you're going to have a storm. Well, the energies itself can be, if they're very heavy, they look very dark and very cloud-like. Okay. When they're not as heavy, then it looks like very light, and lots of times the colors are pinkish. So that's what I see. I see color when I look at energy. That's it, but usually you have to be in spirit form to be able to do that, although some of you could do it in meditation, I would believe.
Would there be a feeling sense to the energy also?
I'm sorry?
Would there be a feeling sense to the energy
Oh,
also?
yes, yes. And you can feel the energies now in your physical bodies if you pay attention. Because sometimes if the energy is very strong and then it gets corrupted with negative thoughts from people on the earth plane, and then you can feel it come in and almost feel like you're being sort of bounced around. And all of a sudden you're not happy, and things are not good. But 10 minutes ago everything was fine. Nothing has changed. It's the way you're reacting to the energies. So it's pretty important to really focus and center so that you don't allow these energies to throw you off balance and have you make choices that you might not make.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question about that, John. So are there any non-physical entities that actively seek out people who are in a weak state?
Yes.
And drag them down, like they're entities?
Mhm.
That are-
Actually, what they are is most of the time they've been in physical form. And they have really liked that. And their energy is very dark. They have been people, energies who have preyed on other people, who have been very, very negative souls. And when it came time to separate from the physical body, they've hung on. Well, the body dissolved, and so here they are, and will they move toward the light? No. They are angry, and they are going to stay regardless of what happened with the physical form. And so that's what you have. So you have beings like that who have been in a physical body, and let's say in the physical body they were pretty powerful. Well, they have gained a lot of negative energy and have sucked it into their soul energy. And so yes, they are on the earth plane, and they they are enjoying making life miserable for other people. And if somebody is in a very weakened state, they can really prey on them and get them to do things that they normally wouldn't do. So yes, that happens. And that's why it's important to protect yourself. And also, you know, when you're in meditation, it never is, what is this? Where am I getting this light at in my face?
Oh, we'll fix that for you.
Ah, that's better. I thought somebody up there was sending me a message. Anyway, so, you know, try to be aware of that. Yes, they're around. You probably will not attract them as much as somebody else because you're pretty strong emotionally, and even if times doesn't feel that way, and you're centered in your spirit. So you probably won't attract them as much as somebody else. But my advice is if you run into them, stay away from them, because they can create a lot of havoc, and which is what they want to do, because if you're very angry and upset, they feed on that energy. They can't feed on positive energy. They feed on the negative. So they're having a feast on the earth plane right now.
Is there a way to tell if they're like latched onto your loved ones?
Oh, interesting. I would think that for you to go into meditation and prayer, now you've got to be very focused and centered and holding your energy very tightly, and then pull that soul to you. If you see a lot of darkness around them, then that is always a possibility. So what you want to do then is be sending them healing energy. Surround them with that golden light of the Buddha, or the pink light of love, the green light of healing, and focus that on them, because the darkness has trouble staying with the light. It can force them away.
John, can these entities take over the body or the soul, like as if it was a demon-possessed thing? Can that happen?
It's possible, but it
That's
has
where
to
it gets
be,
scary.
yeah, but it has to be somebody in a very weakened state.
Okay.
It has to be somebody where the soul is sleeping, practically, and if somebody's in a coma, let's say, then they'll attempt that with them, because the soul has moved back a little bit and is resting, and then this entity of darkness will attempt that. But usually what happens is that makes the soul come alive, even if the body is still in a vegetative state, and they'll have to move on. You are, there's no way that they have the kind of power that they don't have that kind of power that they could come face to face with you. Like, they just don't. You all are stronger than that. But somebody in a very weakened state, and I mean very weakened state, and who's very negative, I would think that they can also prey upon like some of these terrorists, you know, or people who hate. Yes, they can be around them. They really like these extremists who hate, because that energy, they feed on that energy, and they make it even worse. But, you know, it's not like there's a whole bunch of these running around doing this. When you see these negative actions happen, like this man who shot so many people in that concert, no, that was just him. He was angry. He was furious that things weren't working, and he was going to make somebody pay. Why he decided to attack that many people, I mean, he's built a lot of karma now. But so it's, you know, when you see these things happen, it doesn't necessarily mean some of these spirits, and I will call them evil because they're concentrating on evil, even though they're a part of us and we want to reclaim them with love. But yes, you see people who have crossed out of the body and now come home. Now, there's not millions of them around, but there are some, and they're very active. So, what we want to do with that is to send them the energy of love, to cause that darkness to step away from them. Because nothing can prevail against the energy of love and light. It's stronger than anything.
Will these entities eventually come home?
That's our hope.
Because otherwise they're just stuck here, it seems like.
And they've created that.
So it's their choice.
Yeah. But there are some that have been here a couple hundred years.
And they
and
probably really
they're
like
just,
it here.
yeah,
I mean, you always hear like in the 1800s.
right, because
some
they,
of the souls are still
yeah.
existing around here.
But here's the problem, I think, is I know there are people with cameras who go around. It would be really good if inside of just doing that, they would do some prayer and some energy and talk to them and say, come home,
Yeah, go to the light.
because I don't think that's happening much.
Right.
And they're enjoying making money off of this soul's. This is not a good life for those that have gotten stuck here. It's very, very lonely, and they're so angry, that it's going to take time for them to move out of the space they're in to a space to where they can want to come home. And when they do come home, they're on the very first level, and they can't move out of that astral level. They have to do a lot of cleansing and getting their energy back to a pureness, so that they're not going to be able to move up into the upper levels where we would all like to be. Coolest people are in the upper levels, right? So that's what we want. So, but yes, they're on the earth plane, and I recommend ignoring them as much as possible. I tell Geraldine and others, don't attract them, don't give them energy, don't think about them. Now, I know she has always said to them, okay, I'll believe in you, you believe in me, and let's go our separate ways. Because she doesn't want to be around them, so she's going to try and avoid them. There are those, though, on the earth plane who can work with these people who've gotten stuff like that, and they can do it very well. And so they need to be putting it, but if you run into them, put your energy into an energy of peace and love, and send them energy, send them a white light, and say, think about coming home where it's peaceful, where it's loving. So that should be happening when these people go investigate ghost.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what should be happening. I don't think it happens very much, though. It doesn't look like it to me.
Would you talk more about the power of love?
That's all there is. I can't stress enough that energy, because that energy, that power is perfection. It's not an energy that gets perverted. When the energies are moving in right now, and especially these energies of change, there have to be energies moving all the time or the universe would explode, It has to have the energies moving through, and all these different things, all these galaxies, all these universes that your scientists don't know anything about. There's energy moving through all of them. It's what has to happen to keep the worlds going. So, but, energies can be caught and used you're not the only beings in these worlds that can use energies. These energies can be perverted from just pureness to negativity. But here at home, it's all the aspect of love. And that's why it feels good. When you meditate, if you are able to touch into some of those levels, that's why you have that peaceful feeling, that feeling of joy. Because love is all there is. That's what created everything. That's why there's beings, you know? Because before that, and you've all always been, this is hard to understand, I think, for people, but you've always been. There was no beginning, no end to your energy. And when it was all just perfect love, and then thoughts were put out by, well, maybe we could do something. Maybe we could create. And so it's eons and eons of time that creation has been going on forever, and different things, you know, happened. And it was, you know, when I talked about eons ago, when there were beings who were part animal, part person, well, that is wrong. But it was, you know, no one knew. And then when we saw what was happening, because there was all kinds of creation going on, different types of animals, different types of people, and there was a connection, and then we saw that was wrong. It was causing much, much grief. It was impossible for those caught in that kind of physicality to move forward, to develop energy, to go up the levels. So the edict went out, and we all decided this, that would never happen again, that was wrong.
Because people couldn't move up the
They
evolutionary expansion, right?
Right. It was, it
It was
created
painful.
huge pain and huge sadness. So the edict was then that would not ever happen again. Now that was eons ago. So, you know, it's all been learning and growing and experimenting. There have been many different kinds of life that doesn't exist anymore. And once it's gone, it's gone. So when I see what's happening now on the earth plane, it brings to my heart a pain. Because some of these creatures have a right to live. There's been a misunderstanding of the idea that mankind is the only one who has these choices. That's not right. You may be able to devise weapons and things to hurt others, but that doesn't mean you have the right to do that. You incur karma when you take a life. An animal is as important as a person. Sorry to say that, but it's the truth. They have a right to live just as you do. They may not have the thinking capacity you have, but they have a right. They have a purpose, they are beings, and they are loved by us. So to kill is not a good thing. Well, that got me on a soapbox, didn't it?
What about for food?
I'm sorry?
To kill for food?
Well,
Different.
if that had been the only way, then that would have been acceptable. There was a time when that was the only way, and different animals would come and say, okay, I'm finished, so you may use my body. That's happened with very evolved souls. But that's not the case now. And there are lots of other food choices, so that doesn't need to happen. And I will tell you, more and more we see a lot of these meats are becoming tainted
Yeah.
and they are causing illness. And that is going to continue because there are things with the energies that are happening, and you have people who do this work who are careless, and so there's diseases in these processed meats. So you need to be very careful if you're going to eat those. And to sort of cleanse afterward. It would be best, if you could do without those kind of products, but if that's what you need, then just be careful what you get, because there's a lot of disease now in these products. And it's not just the meats either. I've noticed a lot of these processed foods, there's a lack of care, and there are vermin sometimes in these places. And so you need to be really careful what you're consuming. And because it makes a difference. Your spirit works best if it has pure foods, and it can have that purity, and because you need food for energy to stay alive. So, it's best if you can eat foods that are fairly pure and complement the body.
What is a pure food?
Well, organics, fruits and vegetables that you would grow yourself, those kind of things are what I would consider pure. That they don't have, see, what I don't like is a lot of these foods have lots of sprays on them because they use that to kill bugs, and so then it's in the food. So that's not pure. That's what I mean.
Okay.
Becky, are you sick?
I got it. Yeah. What?
Well,
Not very
use some honey with that throat, okay?
long. Okay.
Teas and honeys are good for that.
Okay.
I may not be a healer, but there are things I do know.
John, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Yes,
interrupt you.
go.
I'm very interested in what you talked about earlier about the weather and the shift, and I think we're seeing signs, at least initial signs, with the two hurricanes that have hit the North American land space, the United States in particular. And I think there's other signs too. One is something called red tide, something that's originating from a natural organism that's been around a long time, but it has been worsened by pollution,
Right.
by fertilizers and excess nutrients. And I believe, based on what you're saying, your observation, that we're already seeing the initial signs.
Yes.
That natural processes on Earth are being interrupted and actually being worsened and maybe reversing. Are you seeing, is that kind of holding true? Or?
Yep. Yeah, and it's not just in this country, you're seeing that too. And the oceans have really been attacked, and the water supplies in different places where they're growing things and they are putting all these artificial poisons on them, and then it leaches into the water supply. It's different places that's happening. And then in the rainforest, they're cutting down a lot of that, and then these creatures are dying. You need the rainforest to breathe. It's your oxygen. So a lot of these things are happening, and it's very detrimental to you and to Mother Earth. And that's what you're seeing is this, and especially in the oceans, lots of times you see the sharks now are being impacted. You've noticed they've attacked, and they never did that like this before. So they're being impacted by the pollution in the ocean, the food they eat. It's impacting their thought processes. Thank you for your question.
You're welcome.
I have a personal question, if that's okay. It's
That's
concerning my son, John.
Mm-hmm.
He took a different job now,
Mhm.
and he's realizing he's not crazy about this job, and he's realizing he's not liking corporate America. But I'm concerned for him because he's my son, and
Mhm.
he's confused right now, doesn't know what to do with himself, because he went through college, and it's like, he just can't seem to find a job he likes.
Well,
Do you think
but is he
there's
gonna
a-
stay at this for a while?
I don't know. He's gonna give it 3 months, because he said after 3 months, if they don't think he's doing a good job, they have the right to let him go.
Right.
But there's a lot of calling he has to do, sales calls, sales calls, sales calls.
I thought he was,
And he just doesn't
I
like
thought he was, wasn't his schooling in management?
business management and human resources, and he can't
Mhm.
seem to find that
Mhm.
yet.
Okay,
A lot of
well-
times it's because they don't have experience.
Oh, well, I think, tell him to look at the government,
Okay,
especially in the human resources.
okay.
You have a big government facility
Right,
here.
Patterson Air Force.
Yeah, and tell him to look there, because
Okay.
if he could get an entry-level position in human resources there, I think he would like that a
Okay.
lot better.
Okay, I'll let him know, thank you.
Mhm.
So there was a request from someone to find out if you could give the latest and greatest on the president and whether or not he's going to be around.
Oh, yes, yes, I know, I knew that was coming,
Yeah.
because I've had a couple people talk to Geraldine about it before. Yeah, I said 2 years, and I still think that's gonna happen, because his temper tantrums are getting worse, and there's going to be information that comes out, that there's been information already that came out, but there's going to be more information that comes out, and even that now is going to make his very strong support from people who are very confused. They have an idea of entitlement. A lot of them are very wealthy, and he's played into that. He knows how to play into people, and so he's played into that. But I still believe that some more information is going to come out, and he's going to have a temper tantrum and say he's going to quit. It may not be by Thanksgiving, that's what I saw before, I think, but I would think it would be before the beginning of the new year. So I'm looking November, December, that he would probably decide he is better than this, and no one has the right to tell him what to do. And his own party is losing faith with him. So he's going to have more people from his party telling him to do things, and he is not going to accept that. No one tells him what to do, and he enjoys, what he really likes about being president is the attention. There's always attention on him, and that's what he really likes. As far as doing the job, he has no interest in that. No. He doesn't know how to do it, and he's putting people in positions that they don't know what they're doing. And so it's really it's not good for your government. But right now, he's gotten he has been the benefit of the last, I would say, 12, 14 years. The things Bush did, the things Obama did, it takes time for things to shift, you see. And so now he is reaping that benefit with the lower unemployment numbers. But it's not going to stay. And also, a lot of the Republican lawmakers are getting flack from women. There are women who do support this president, but there are other women who are truly outraged and who are speaking out now for the first time. And lawmakers are hearing from them, and they don't like it. So, and also, some of these lawmakers are people of integrity, and they don't like what they see, and they do talk to him, and he will not accept criticism. You better not criticize him. That's his take, and so I still see a shifting here. When the other one takes over, he still won't have the ideas that you would like, but at least he's not going to be insulting everyone. Because this man has insulted a lot of people and a lot of your friends in other countries. You must have these friendships. You cannot stand alone. It will be very lonely for this country if you try to stand alone.
Hey John, do you see in the future then, say maybe 5 years out on Earth time, someone nominating a different president? Could it be a Democratic one, or, I mean, I don't know. Are we allowed to ask that? I'm just curious.
But I'll tell you right now, it's not clear.
Okay.
Because what I'm seeing is a lot of energy swirling around this. So there are different things that are playing in here. You have different groups of people in this country. And you've got some who are steadfast behind this Trump idea. Then you have others who are shifting. Things are really shifting. You have young voters, and a lot of them are very upset at the waste that they have seen in government. So it will be interesting. I think what you're going to see, though, 5 to 10 years, but you got to keep in mind now, if the shifting comes when I'm thinking, excuse me, that will make all the difference, won't it? Because parts of the country will be gone,
That's true too.
you know? So that's why I can't really answer that, Bev. We'll see what, we just gotta wait and see how this plays out.
Well,
so far.
do you think our government will always be a Republican and
Oh,
Democrat?
thank you.
Or will it be a one unification eventually, which would be nice?
No, I don't see it united,
Okay.
no.
So it won't be united.
But there'll be more than just those two. There'll be other parties.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so
that's
it's
good.
gonna, you know, in some countries in Europe, they have 5 and 6 parties.
I didn't know. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So you may have that. You may have that here. That will be interesting, won't it?
Mhm.
Do you think it'll happen in our lifetime?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It will happen in your lifetime, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And it will be interesting to see.
Yeah.
And it will be you know, in England, I don't know how many parties they have, but you know how they get up and they all yell at each other? Yeah. But actually, they do that, but then they're really civilized, because then they all get together and they vote. And what you have here is you just have people screaming at each other, but then they stay right where they are. They don't impact each other on changing their thoughts.
So what can we do in the meantime, all of us here? I just think about praying for that situation, just
Yes.
to unfold, and somehow that's what we can do, just let it get better.
Right, and I think it's very good if you pray for the people that you know that are in office and ask their soul self, their higher self, to direct them.
Okay.
Because that's not happening. What you see when you look at that is egos run amok, you know? And that doesn't create much, you know? That creates a lot of, they take the energies that are there and they feel very energized when they use them, but then it's like there's a separation between them and them when that should not be happening. This earth plane has always had dissension like that, always, it's never been like, oh, well, this is a place of peace, because that's not what it's designed to be. It's designed to be the school. It's designed to be your teaching place. And it's a very beautiful planet that you've all put together here to live on. But, you know, it's been many years of this planet being hurt, these energies being misused, to where the earth is going to have to right itself. But it's been, you know, all through eons of time, there have been circumstances on the earth plane where things have been destroyed and then rebuilt. You know, there are different areas of the earth now that were different before in different spots. I think the scientists talk about that, don't they?
Hey, John, I have an interesting question. I'm trying to think how to ask it. You talked about where you're at as a spiritual being in a spiritual place. You talk about the white light. As a human being talking to you, I can just imagine what that place looks like where you reside, and where you teach, and where you congregate with others like yourself. Is it similar to what we see here in this physical dimension, or is it something that is totally incomprehensible? Just a interesting. I'm curious.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me see how best to describe this.
Yeah.
First of all, it's another dimension,
Yeah.
and I don't know how to describe that.
Yeah.
You live in a dimension where it's threes, right? Third, yeah, okay. But it's not like that where I'm from.
Yeah.
And where I'm from, let me give you my description of how it feels and looks. It feels like it's all white, and it's really beautiful. Now, when you're here and you have, you know, these spirit bodies that we have when we're home are very powerful. I keep talking to you about the power you have in these physical bodies with this energy, soul energy that you carry. You have much more power than you know. But when you're home, you really have a lot of power in this spirit body. And you can create whatever you want. Because whatever is in your thought form, you can create. And yes, we have thought forms. We are pure energy. And we have capability, all the capabilities you would have in a physical body. We can think, we can move, but we don't have physical problems because we don't have a physical body. So we don't have to worry about, I'm coughing, am I sick? Because we can't get sick. We're pure energy, we're light. So when you're here, you have this absolute comfortable feeling. A feeling, you know, let's think back to when you're very teeny children and you're with your parents and you know you're safe and you know you're loved. And let's say you're going to sleep and your parents kiss you goodnight, tuck you in, and you know you are safe. I'm sure you've all had that feeling of complete safety and security. Well, that's hard to get on the earth plane. And the older you get, the further away that feeling goes. But here, that's what it is. It's always knowing you are safe, you are loved, you are protected. Do we have meetings where we don't all agree? Yes. But it's done with love. maybe I don't like that purple lamppost that you designed. I think it should be orange. But it's just done with love. We all decide. And you two are a part of these meetings that go on. Everyone is. But you just don't remember it. When you come down to the earth plane, you bring a part of your soul energy with you. When you're home, everything is there for you. You can decide what you want to do. If you want to just float in a rocker and never do anything, then that's what you can do. If you want to create a beautiful mansion, then that's what you can do. If you want to serve, if you want to work with beings when they come home, perhaps babies and children, or what I like to do, and I do this when I'm not teaching a lot, is I will go move out of this energy and I'll move over to different galaxies and universes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I'll watch what's going on, and maybe I'll be with a group, you know, and we'll see something happening, and so we'll be sending the energy to that, to help that revitalize, or to help that planet move and stay in its orbit. So we do things like that, and that's one of my fun things to do. I really like doing that. So, you know, we can do what we want, but we working in connection with each other. If I'm supposed to be doing, let's say, well, I don't usually do this, but let's say I'm conducting a small group here. You know, people who have first come home. That's normally not what I do, but maybe the one who's doing it can't do it, so I will do it that time. So it's a different energy of presenting ideas to people who have first come back. And you know, we all do different things here, because maybe you're working with beings in another galaxy who have a different physical experience than the kind of bodies you have. And so those energies are different. So it's that soul is evolved enough to be the teacher would be working with them. So that's kind of, is that a good description? It's kind of hard to describe something like this in physical terms.
Yeah, I believe something that we would, we can't even comprehend. You know, I mean, I was thinking of, can you, again, how do I communicate? But, would you observe sunlight? You would see the sun, possibly. I think you could. Probably mountains, clouds, water, but maybe not, because these are all things that represent matter, and where you're at.
But you could create those things out of pure energy, because everything that's physical has energy, and it started there and then developed, right?
It came out of thought first, and then energy coalesced around that thought. Is that out? And so when we're here on the planet, when we're here on the planet and we're working with energy, I'm talking about ways that we can establish within ourselves a sense of our own peace, a sense of our own centeredness.
And you know what? It's truly good to be in groups too, because you share strengths and you share energy together, and it helps you remember who you are.
So, oftentimes on the earth plane, we're taught that in order to get something, you have to work hard for it. Matter of fact, the harder you work, the more you get, which isn't necessarily so. As a
No,
matter of
it
fact, that's a
isn't, it's your
falsehood.
thoughts.
Yeah,
And
so,
the amount of energy that you put toward it. Yes, there are times when you have to work hard, but here's the thing, if you're doing what you love, then that necessarily wouldn't be what you were thinking about work, right? But you would still putting energy toward it to create it.
but it wouldn't be an energy of struggle. It would not be an energy of struggle. Like sometimes, like on this pathway of really learning how to embrace who we are in our spiritual form and to allow both of those to work together. Um, you know, there's often the talk of really working hard to get that, and then what happens is that in doing that, you almost are in opposition.
Right.
You know, you're finding you're resistant, or you're in the back of your mind. You're building. You've got
Well,
another idea.
Right, and sometimes with this, Rebecca, the energy can sort of rebound and your resistance is real,
Right.
okay? And you can be creating and not necessarily creating resistance, but attracting it.
Right.
Yeah, so you have to be careful about the thought process.
Right.
And that's why being in contemplation or meditation, but you don't have to always be, sitting like eyes closed and think. You can be quiet and be contemplating and allowing the thoughts to flow. And that's why it's good to write down your thoughts, and because it gives you a clear picture of where you are. Because when the emotions get involved, which you came with an emotional body, you need that emotional body. When the emotions get involved, then sometimes you can't see clearly at all. And then that triggers the ego so strongly, then you're off and running, you've lost it. So it's good if you can take the space to be in peace, to contemplate. And I want to say something about meditation. Meditation has come out because it seems to be a popular thing now that more people are doing it. And it's like sitting in the lotus position, and that's meditation. Anything where you are focusing your mind and your thoughts, you could be doing a painting and your thoughts are there. Well, that's a form of meditation. You could go fly fishing, right? And that's a form of meditation. You're out in God's nature, right? And so there are all kinds of ways to be contemplative without having to, because people with meditation, they can get really resistant. Like, oh, I just can't sit there. My thoughts just go. Well, your thoughts are always going to go, and that's okay. That's okay. But, you still want to gain that peaceful center of yourself that is always there if you allow it to unfold. And when that happens, you can be more creative, and you can allow these creative ideas to flow to you, because you have that absolute right. So I'm thinking we might be complete. Is that right? Well, okay. So then, hopefully I've given you some things to think about. I have enjoyed my time with you, and we will speak again. I know we will. And also I want to say, we're going to bring Jesus back. I know Geraldine said to some people, no, I'm not doing that. Took too much energy. But now she's reconsidered.
Okay.
So we'll probably do something after the first of the year
Okay.
to bring him back, because he enjoyed himself.
Oh, good.
And was there something else? Wait, probably have another announcement. There was something else. Well, I guess I lost it.
Is it about
Okay.
monthly class?
Huh?
The monthly class?
Oh, but yeah, I gave Becky those
Oh, okay.
ideas, didn't I?
What?
Did I talk to you about that group?
Yes.
Okay, so, okay, well, I will leave then. I have enjoyed my time with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
I know that you are walking the path that you chose, and even if it seems difficult, you're all doing well. I consider all of you my students,
Thank you.
and you make me look good, so that's good.